Welcome to Conspiracist.
Glad to be here.
Today, we're doing a deep dive into a pretty intriguing hypothesis, one that's definitely got people talking. The idea that governments, maybe intentionally, have hidden evidence about something called the propaganda machine exposed.
Right. It's a heavy topic. We've gathered quite a bit of material looking at propaganda itself, how it works, its history, what it looks like today.
And our goal here, just to be clear for everyone listening, is to stay really objective. We want to evaluate the arguments, the reasoning behind this whole hypothesis.
Exactly. We're not here to say, yes, it exists or no, it doesn't. It's more about building a framework, understanding the concepts, propaganda, information control.
And maybe why this idea of deliberate concealment resonates with people.
Precisely. It taps into certain anxieties, I think.
Okay, so let's start with the basics. What is propaganda? Our sources give a few takes.
Yeah, the core idea seems to be a deliberate, systematic attempt.
Systematic, right.
To shape how people see things, manipulate their understanding, maybe even direct their behavior.
To get a specific outcome, a desired response.
That's the goal, yeah. And it gets interesting when you break it down further.
How so?
Well, the materials mention different types. There's white propaganda.
Okay, what's that?
That's where the source is identified. And the information, it's generally presented as being accurate.
Presented as accurate.
And you've got gray propaganda. That's more ambiguous. Maybe the source isn't clear or the truth of the info is questionable.
A bit murky.
Exactly. And then there's black propaganda.
That sounds ominous.
It is. That's deliberate deception, outright lies, false sources, designed to mislead completely.
So even with the white kind, the supposedly accurate stuff.
Right. Even there are ethical questions, aren't there?
How do you mean?
Well, think about it. Even if the facts presented are technically true, the selection of those facts, how they're framed, that's still manipulation, isn't it?
Like highlighting only the good parts of a policy.
Exactly. Or downplaying the negatives. It's still a powerful way to persuade, even using accurate data points. It's about the overall picture being painted.
That makes sense. It connects to this idea of ideology, too, which comes up in our sources.
It does. One perspective suggests ideologies are often built on, foundational beliefs, maybe even myths, not necessarily hard facts.
But they're powerful. They shape how people see the entire world, right? Across different times.
Hugely powerful. And you see different scales. There are particular ideologies.
Like for a political party.
Yeah, motivating specific groups, usually aiming for power. They often simplify things, paint opponents negatively.
Standard political playbook, maybe.
You could say that. But then there are these total ideologies, the kind that define a whole era.
Like feudalism in the Middle Ages, maybe.
That's a great example. These huge overarching systems of belief. They tend to stick around as long as they're effective.
Effective at what?
Generating and holding on to power, wealth. If they stop delivering that, they tend to crumble or get replaced.
Okay, so connecting ideology and propaganda. This leads us towards looking at history, doesn't it? Cases where information was, let's say, managed.
Right, and while our sources don't point to a smoking gun labeled government-concealed propaganda machine exposed.
Yeah, no specific document like that.
We absolutely see patterns of information control throughout history. Wartime is a classic example.
Propaganda to rally the troops, build support.
Exactly. Stir up patriotism, create hatred for the enemy, sometimes even dehumanize them, make it easier for people to accept conflict.
And that raises questions about the news media's role sometimes.
It certainly does. The materials touch on discussions around the lead up to the Iraq War, for instance.
The WMDs.
The weapons of mass destruction claims, yeah. Arguments were made back then, and still are, that some media outlets perhaps presented government claims as fact without enough independent checking.
So the information got out there, influenced public opinion.
Regardless of the ultimate intent or even the absolute truth of it at the time, it shows how information can be weaponized, or at least used strategically.
There's another historical example mentioned, much older, the Pennsylvania Journal front page from 1765.
Oh, right, with the black border, the skull and crossbones.
Yeah, protesting the Stamp Act.
The publisher saw it as the death of press freedom, a tax on paper, essentially hitting newspapers hard.
So it's a symbolic thing, but it shows how government actions can feel like suppression.
Definitely. It's about the perception of control, the fear that the government is trying to silence or manage the narrative.
So even without finding evidence of this specific conspiracy,
the historical context shows a long, long history of information being used as a tool of influence, of power.
And that helps explain why people are maybe more receptive today to ideas about hidden manipulation.
I think so. It provides a backdrop. These aren't entirely new anxieties.
Which brings us neatly to the modern day. Social media. That's changed everything, hasn't it?
Oh, completely. The speed, the reach, information or misinformation can spread like wildfire.
And what goes viral isn't always what's true. It's often what's most sensational.
Or emotionally charged, yeah. Accuracy can take a backseat to engagement sometimes.
And then there's the whole debate about bias on these platforms.
That's a really complex one. You hear a lot of claims, for example, about anti-conservative bias.
Right, that platforms suppress right-leaning views.
But then some analyses we looked at suggest, well, actually, right-leaning content often performs very well on these platforms. It gets a lot of engagement.
So the claim of bias itself, could that be?
It could be its own form of disinformation, yeah. A narrative pushed strategically to sow distrust, it's hard to untangle sometimes.
And it's not just organic spread. We have organized efforts too, right? These troll farms.
Yes. Groups, sometimes state-sponsored, sometimes other actors who are paid to push specific messages, flood comment sections.
And create a false sense of consensus? Or just noise?
Both, probably. Make it seem like an idea is more popular than it is, or just drown out opposing views. It's deliberate manipulation of the online conversation.
And the techniques they use, they sound familiar.
They often do. They're drawing from the classic propaganda playbook. Things our sources mention like name-calling. Simple, crude, but effective.
And glittering generalities. What's that?
Using vague, positive-sounding words that everyone likes, but that don't mean much concretely.
Like freedom or hope or making things great?
Exactly. Words that evoke positive feelings without committing to specific policies. And then there's distorting data, cherry-picking stats.
Presenting information selectively to fit the narrative.
Right. And a huge challenge today is just figuring out who is behind a message and why they're sending it, especially when they try to hide their tracks.
It's tough. So faced with all this, what can people actually do? How do you navigate this?
Well, the materials highlight a couple of key things: counter-propaganda and critical thinking.
Counter-propaganda. So fighting fire with fire.
Sort of, but the emphasis is usually on using factual information to refute the false stuff. It's reactive.
Gotcha.
And speed is apparently really important there.
Why speed?
Because of our own brains, basically. Cognitive biases, like confirmation bias.
Where we tend to believe things that already fit our worldview.
Precisely. So if a false narrative gets out there and isn't challenged quickly, people start accepting it, especially if it confirms what they already suspect.
And then it's much harder to correct later, even with facts.
Much harder. The belief gets entrenched.
So if someone already distrusts the government, for example,
they might easily accept a story about government wrongdoing, confirming their bias, and be very skeptical of any information that contradicts it.
Which really just hammers home the point about needing critical thinking skills.
Absolutely essential. And information literacy.
Being able to look at something online, an article, a meme, a video, and ask the right questions.
Yeah. Who made this? Why? What's their evidence? Are other credible sources saying the same thing? Can I check the original source?
Basic media literacy, but maybe supercharged for the digital age.
You could put it that way. Understanding how algorithms work, how they might feed you more of what you already like or believe.
Creating filter bubbles.
Exactly. Knowing how to recognize biased language, spot emotional manipulation, cross-reference claims, digital literacy education is crucial.
Equipping people with the tools to not just consume media, but to analyze it.
That's the goal.
Okay, let's circle back then to the hypothesis we started with, this idea of a hidden propaganda machine exposed.
Right. The core claim of intentional concealment by governments.
If, and this is purely hypothetical, based on what we've discussed about propaganda, if such a thing did exist and governments were trying to hide it, what would be the logic? The methods.
Okay, hypothetically speaking, motivations. Well, the obvious ones: maintaining power, controlling public opinion on key issues, maybe war, maybe economic policy.
Protecting certain agendas from public scrutiny.
Sure. Keeping embarrassing or unpopular truths under wraps. The methods, again, pure speculation based on control tactics, could involve suppressing whistleblowers or critical journalists.
Managing the mainstream media narrative.
Potentially. Maybe amplifying official narratives, downplaying inconvenient facts, or even creating counter-narratives specifically designed to discredit anyone claiming there's a hidden machine.
Making them look like cranks or conspiracy theorists.
It's a known tactic for discrediting inconvenient truths.
And some of the material we looked at does raise points about corporate media maybe getting too close to government interests sometimes.
Yes, there are definitely arguments made that large media organizations can sometimes align with or seem to echo government talking points.
But we need to stress that's a claim within the discourse, not something our sources definitively prove as evidence of this specific hidden machine.
Absolutely. It's part of the broader concern about media independence and potential influence, which fuels suspicion for some people.
So really understanding all this, the history, the techniques, the modern challenges.
It empowers you, the listener. It helps you engage with news and information more critically, more discerningly.
To develop a healthy skepticism, maybe? Not outright cynicism, but...
A questioning attitude, yeah. A proactive approach to finding diverse, reliable sources, not just passively accepting what comes across your feed.
So wrapping up this deep dive,
Mm-hmm.
we've looked into this hypothesis about a concealed propaganda machine exposed.
We have, by exploring what propaganda actually is, its history.
How information has been controlled in the past.
The new wrinkles, the digital age ads.
And really stressing why critical thinking is just non-negotiable today.
Right. Hopefully this whole exploration encourages you to, always think about the source, question the narratives you see, stay vigilant.
Be an active participant in understanding the information landscape.
Well put.
Thanks for listening to Conspiracist.